Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Hope Dealer Podcast, brought to you by Dr. Hooten here in North Dallas. And today we're going to talk about how to raise a healthy child or multiple children. And also on the other side of the spectrum, we're going to talk about how to be a healthy adult, or even more specifically, how to make it into your senior years with vitality, vim, and vigor. Before we do that, big announcement this morning. We won another award, Best Podcast of all time, anywhere, based on the M&M committee. Mish Hooten is the sole president of the committee, and she gave me the award this morning. I just wanted to take a shout out, and it's the only time this award will ever be given, so I will be the only one that ever has it. Very grateful for that. In all seriousness, we do like to keep a good attitude around here because people come in with sick children all the time, or on the other side, they'll come in as an adult, 50, 60, or 70 years old, taking multiple medications, and they're saying, how do we get healthy? So I've got 3 points today, and I'll try to parlay it with the kids and the adults and anywhere in between, really. The rules are the same for children and adults. It's just that children develop so much more quickly. Their bodies are changing and adapting so much faster. It's vital that we get started when they're younger. Now, if you've waited until you're 60 to get healthy, it's not too late. Anything you do today will make tomorrow a little bit better. Okay, so for point number one, and now this is, I'm gonna fly right in your face, because if you turn on the TV, especially nowadays, every 2 or 3 commercials is ask your doctor about this drug, ask about this drug, go get this test, go get this test. And then coming up here next couple of months, you're gonna see all this pink campaign for breast cancer testing and research and that kind of thing. And then in children, it's all about take your doctor to get the vaccines. Take your doctor for this, take your kid to the doctor for this checkup. And I think they start, the first one is in 2 weeks, then it's 2 months, 6 months, or whatever the schedule is nowadays to go to the pediatrician. My kid never did that. Listen to what I just said. My daughter was born in 2011 and has never had a childhood pediatric checkup. She's never been to an appointment like that. She doesn't even know what it is. It's so foreign to her that if you were to tell her she needed to go get a shot of some kind, she would revolt. And now she's 13 and she's strong, fast, and really clever. She will fight you. She'll fight me like she tries to on everything. It's this, I'm a typical parent. We're having to teach our kid how to live life. But that one area, boy, she is solid on. She knows how to be healthy, and that does not include going to the doctor and taking all these shots and vaccines. That there is a huge population that do not do that. Just in our lives, I know well over 500 families that have multiple kids, and not one of them has ever had a vaccine. They never had the eye cream when the kid was born. They never had the hepatitis shot. They never had a measles shot, mumps, rubella. That's a bunch of hogwash, garbage that the system has infiltrated into our culture, the system being the drug companies, the system being the people making the money. They've sold us on a pool of lies that we have to do these things to get our kids healthy. If that was the case, if vaccines were so successful and so helpful in helping our children be healthy, how would because we take all these vaccines, we take more than anywhere else on the planet, wouldn't our children be the healthiest anywhere? Here in Dallas and Texas and everywhere, and I bring this up to everybody because I know the truth, and you can only imagine the looks that I get when I say, yeah, our kid's never been vaccinated. You don't have to do that. It's like I've stepped on the Holy Grail or something. I don't know what it is about people's insides where they've latched onto this idea that we have to inject chemicals, that we have to inject a bug. Well, then, lo and behold, do I have some family members that went into medical school. So when they got to this part about vaccines, I was asking them, how did that go? What did they teach you about vaccines? And you know what they said? They taught them the schedule, and it was a very brief on how the vaccine is supposed to work, but they don't talk about the ingredients. They don't talk about any side effects. They don't talk about any of that. And if you look at the box, and you don't have to take my word for it, go look up the box, the warning label on the measles vaccine. It says, black and white, side effects include autism. Think about that. And people, a lot of people that you know, are blindly going through the world thinking that they have to do vaccines to go to school. It is a lie. In Texas, you can get easily out of all these vaccines. I tell everybody when they're pregnant, you don't have to do this. I would recommend you don't, because on the other side, when I see the kids that don't get vaccinated, they are by far the healthiest kids I have. Now, some kids started getting vaccines before we met, then their parents came in and they said, oh, you mean we don't have to do that? I always worried about putting those needles in my kid's arm. I said, no, you don't have to do that at all. No, they would start cleaning their kids' environment up, cleaning their bodies out, and their kids are super healthy and thriving today too. So even if you started this whole mess with this vaccine schedule, you can still get out of it. Now, is that medical advice? Not really, because vaccines are optional. Think about it. The vaccines are optional. If you have a raging bacterial infection like a staph infection, I would tell you, you know what, let's go to the doctor, do what they say, which they're going to give you an antibiotic, and then let's recover from that. Let's figure out why you got sick in the first place. That would be proper medical thinking. In this case, you have a total choice about it. It is completely up to you as a parent, and you don't have to do it. You don't listen to anybody. There's these doctors out there that are saying, oh, if you're not going to follow the vaccine schedule, then we can't take you on as a patient. We can't keep your kid under care. Well, you know what I say to that? You know what? I almost cussed on our podcast, and here I'm a family-friendly show. That is an outrageous lie. It is straight from the devil. It is evil. You do not have to listen to it. Think about this. The Bible talks about drugs, medications. It calls it pharmakia, and that's Greek or Latin or whatever language they were writing it in, for sorcery and witchcraft. And look, we have pharmacy now that comes from that Greek word, pharmakia. Right? And it says, do not rely on pharmakia for health. You will fail. You'll die. Your body will die to that. All that to say this. There are people out here like us. I'm telling you, there are people that don't vaccinate their kids, and it's a huge amount of people. Unfortunately, we don't have a database because we're not all out there, checking a box, say, hey, there's nobody tracking how many people are unvaccinated. But like I said, I know well over 500 kids. And if you talk to them, they probably know 20 or 30 other families that don't. And our kids aren't sick, man. There's very, very few allergies, very, very few chronic illness. That's another stat I got the other day. Half of our kids under 16 are already diagnosed with a chronic illness. Half. And that has to do with metabolism, the health of their body. It's not genetics or anything like that. So all that to say this, don't rely on the system. The doctors are brainwashed through the drug companies, through the medical schools. Don't rely on that to be healthy. Is it great in the emergency room? Usually. I've been there. I've had to have surgery. I shattered my arm one time. There were bone fragments everywhere. I had to suck it up and go into the lion's den with all kinds of prayer. And you know what? They did a really good job. But what they told me to do after, as far as medications, I didn't do any of that crap. They wanted me to take these anti-inflammatories for like 6 months because of all the damage. I didn't take one of them. Once that anesthesia wore off, I had to take one pain pill because if you've ever been through surgery, that's a catastrophic amount of pain. I get that, but don't rely on that. You can't stay in the system and expect to be healthy. So one thing about your body, so that's children, and let's talk about adults also. Think about your body as a garden, and your garden is either flourishing or it's dying. Flourishing or dying. There is really no middle ground. If you're a gardener, if you know a gardener, you don't ever go up to him and say, hey, is your garden in the middle of healthy and sick? No, they're always trying to get it healthier and healthier. They're watering it. They're feeding it good nutrients. They're giving it organic soil. They're taking care of the lifelines of the garden. You have to do the same thing as an adult as you do your kids. You've got to take responsibility for your health. So this is point number 2. Your health is your fault, and it is up to you. It's not up to a physician. It's not up to a doctor. It's certainly not up to a drug or a vaccine. It's not up to a test. Your health is not dependent on you getting a mammogram. That is another lie. Your health is not dependent on you getting a colonoscopy. All those things do is find the disease after it happens, and then they convince you that it was genetic, that there was nothing you can do. Think about the treachery in that line of thinking. How evil is that? They're taking they're making you think it's not your fault. You're not responsible for any of this. It's in your genes. God gave you bad genes, like you were created with a mistake. So that when this test shows up that you have this cancer or whatever, now you don't have any other choice other than do the chemotherapy, radiation, and whatever the heck they want to do. None of that is healthy. It's all finding a disease after it's happened. And what we know about cancer today is a metabolic process that you either cause or you prevent. Let me say that again. You either cause cancer or prevent it, whether it's in a child or an adult. It doesn't come from getting a test. None of that stuff works. Now, if you want a safe test, there's some scans you can do that don't involve radiation or injecting yourself with some kind of radioactive sugar. And believe it or not, that's what they do. Joe ever told you guys that? These CAT scans, and I think there's some other type of scan, they'll do an injection so that if the cancer cells are in there, the injection attaches to the cancer cells, and then you light up like a Christmas tree on the scan. That injection is radioactive sugar. Just the whole system they got started on the wrong foot 100 years ago, and they never took the foot off that gas pedal because there's so much money involved. There's so much money. People arguing for free health care, they're arguing for free access to a broken system. None of it is going to work. It is up to you, period. Now, that's not the end of the story. That should be very enlightening to know that you have authority over your body. You have control. Now, God has a plan for your body. You have to treat it appropriately in order to receive that plan. Does that make sense? We talked about that with my family this morning. Our daughter is a product of everything that I'm preaching right now, and she has taken it upon herself to be healthy. She knows God has a plan for her. She knows God wants her to be well. She knows God wants her to be happy and joyful. So she's taken appropriate steps to do so. You know, she's on her phone, just like most kids. We have I limit it as much as we can, but we monitor it. The girl, she's listening to happy, joyful music, Christian music. If something comes on that's ugly, like she scrolls off of that. The other day, there was some song that she was just scrolling through, and I heard it, and it had such vile language, and she was trying to get it off her phone real quick, and I said, "What was that?" And she started crying because she heard this awful language, and it was something about you're a sexy girl, whatever the case was. It just wasn't appropriate for anybody, let alone a 13-year-old girl, and she knew, the spirit in her was like, I can't go there. I want to stay over here and treat my body appropriately to exude joy into the world so that my body is healthy. Therefore, when she grows up, she's not going to be doing any testing. There's not going to be any mammograms. There's not going to be any pap smears. No, that would sound, that you might as well put her in a den of pit vipers. I mean, she's not going to do that. So we've taught her. I didn't learn this until I was 13. I was born into this system. I was a very sick kid. My parents were sick. My parents were on multiple medications. They were overweight, obese, and everything. So when I graduated and I got into this whole lifestyle thing, I took it upon myself to get in my parents' face and say, your health is your fault. The fact that you're overweight, the fact that you have all this arthritis, the fact that you have this blood pressure problem, the fact that you have cholesterol and diabetes, that is your fault. Now, how many of you think your parents would appreciate you telling them that? Try telling anybody that. I mean, grab your friend that's overweight and say, it's your fault. You know, what's their first response? Screw you. It's like, get me away from you, you heathen. They don't want to hear it. So you got to approach it lovingly. And that's what I did. I said, look, Mom and Dad, they were in their 50s when we started this whole journey. And I said, look, you're not going to make it to 60, 65, let alone 70. If you keep behaving this way, if you keep going to the doctor, taking all these drugs, going to the pharmacy and doing all this stuff. After 27 times, as Zig Ziglar says, people need to hear it, a bunch, they started listening to me and they started changing. They started coming in. This is where you start. So I want to tell you the first step to take. A lot of you think right away food. Well, food's important. And we did a video on that a couple videos ago. Exercise is important. But I'm telling you, the first step is exactly what I just said. Realizing your health is your responsibility. So taking responsibility and saying, okay, he's right. I have to do something about this. Otherwise, tomorrow's going to be worse. 10 years from now is going to be worse. So I got my parents to realize that. I literally made them think what they were going to be like when they were 70, and they were horrified by that. They didn't want to be in a wheelchair. You know, they didn't want to be like the other people in our family taking all these drugs and having strokes and heart attacks and everything. They wanted to be well and vibrant when they were 70. So they changed their mindset. That's number one. And along with that, start taking care of your spine. Most people, and I would say 99 out of 100, now this is just based on my statistics in here, I've had probably 10 people over the years come in with a healthy spine. But most people, the vast majority, let's say 90 to 99%, have a spine that is deteriorating. That is because of posture. What is this thing everybody's doing all the time? What are we doing here on the computer? We sit like this. Look, I mean, I'm not picking on you. But this is what we do, right? And then we sit our kids down in school. Then we go work, right? Athletics, right? My kid's playing soccer. She's on the ground all the time, just like I was playing soccer. And man, every one of those is a trauma to the spine. So what happens is, with all this built-up pressure, and forgot about birth. A lot of birth traumas. C-section is a trauma to the spine. Maybe convenient to the doctors, maybe convenient to the moms. I understand there's some emergencies. So I'm not talking about that. I'm saying if we, no matter how it happens or why it happens, a baby is not meant to be yanked out or pulled out. It's made to be pushed out. That is exactly how we're designed. So that's an example of a trauma, and I see it all the time in 4- and 5-year-old x-rays where the kid was damaged from a C-section. So we do all these things that damage the spine, and this pressure builds up. And it's literally closing off and clamping off on the very thing keeping us alive. So let me just, I'll use a family, the Long family. Danielle, Ryan, how you guys doing? How you doing, kids? I hope you guys get to see this. I know you'll see it here in the office. She told me, and once they started coming years ago, she told me if they missed a week, that she could see a difference in the way her kids behaved in the morning, that she could see a difference in the way they behaved at school. Now, how many of you have a rambunctious 5-year-old, or if your kids, when they were 5, or if your kids are younger, they will be 5, know that your kid's going to be rambunctious when they're 5, 6, 7 years old. They're going to be all over the place. Everybody should be raising their hand. What were you like at 5, 6, and 7? So if the spine is flowing, the kid will behave better in school. They behave better with the parents. They can sleep better, digest food better, handle the stress of the day. And that's where I come in. We specialize in children. If you want your kids to be well, bring them in. I'll explain everything. I've adjusted my kid since she was brand new. She was born, and I adjusted her within a minute of when she was born. In fact, the umbilical cord was still attached. And that was just to make sure her brain and her spine were connected and flowing appropriately. And you won't meet a healthier kid. I mean, she's had snot and boogers like everybody else, but she's never had a drug for any of that stuff. It all goes away. She's never missed a day of school from being sick or anything like that. Never had a flu shot. Doesn't run off to the pediatrician. We don't even have Tylenol in the house. That's a whole nother podcast. I could take an hour and talk about the dangers of just Tylenol. She's already taken responsibility for her health. Do you want your kids to take responsibility for their health? Bring them in. We'll start coaching them. It's very easy to help a kid. Very easy to adjust children. It doesn't hurt. It's very safe. You know, if you watch any of our videos, about half the 2-year-olds will cry, but it's not because they're hurting. They're just, they're 2 or 1. But most of the kids, as they grow up 3 and 4 years old, they jump up on that table, get adjusted, the power's on, and we see the miracles happen. Kids, with asthma going away. They're fixing themselves. I don't fix asthma. They do. I've got one kid regrowing his hair. He had lost all his hair. His body is fixing itself. ADD going away, depression going away, sleep, constipation is a big one. If you want your kids to be well, bring them in to see us and take care of their spine every week. This is Dr. Brian signing off. Remember, drugs are bad, God is great, and so are you.